Thank you, Deepen, and thank you for joining us on the stage. Like Hitain said, this is a mixer. The objective is to get to know each other and also understand how we are of value to each other, right? So, keeping that as the theme, um, let me start. Let me try and break it out into a couple of discussion themes here. One is on the like many startups are here, so of course, technology is one track. Of course, other important track is funding. So from a funding perspective, so let me start by asking a few, or let me try and set a context here so that you can start talking about how funding companies are looking at startups. Okay, so given that the industry is moving towards more and more, I would say, an organized segment. Of course, unorganized segment is still there, but as the industry moves towards a more organized segment, what are the typical expectations that a funding agency has from startups? So, if you can start from that, maybe, Mr. Abhijit, if you can give your few thoughts about it. The question is funding agencies, the key expectations of the funding agencies from startups.
So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and privilege to be in Ahmedabad. Come here after almost 2.5 years. So, what I heard also from government initiatives are so good. I think environment here is much more vibrant than many other states. So, love to see what we can do together. So, before I start answering this question, I think I need to give a bit of perspective what I do so that you know if there's any way we could be of any help. So we have three companies in the group. One is an investment bank called Unitus Capital, where I raise money for companies, mostly startups which have matured, where we do equity raise anywhere between $10 million to $100 million. And we have done more than 36,000 crores of capital raise for 200 plus companies. That's my first baby. My partner is an American, Eric. He lives in India. Second entity we have is NBFC called UC Inclusive Credit, which I spend more time nowadays, where we lend to early stage businesses, and clean tech or green companies are a focus area for us. We do all sort of companies. We are sector agnostic both in the IB and in the NBFC. We have backed 375 startups. In the last 6.5 years, it was more than 3,600 crores to them. And the third entity in the group is a small private equity fund where we only focus on two sectors. One is clean or green, other is financial inclusion. We have made one investment on the clean space called Ampere Energy, and out of Pune, and two NBFCs where we have put in money. It's 350 crore maiden fund of the United Capital Group. So now, what we look at. So I think because I do multiple hats at times, so it's how you look at things from different hats. But more importantly, what comes to mind first thing is what is the investor looking at it is from the scalability of the business. It's very important to understand how scalable the business are, because today there are a lot of companies just come and do things which others are doing. Right now, I was talking to an investor just about 20 minutes back, and we're discussing about that you have invested in two companies on the OEM side. Will you do the third? Their point is no fun doing OEM now. OEM I would have done 3-4 years back, but not now, right? So I think the priorities change over a period of time, but at the end of the day, what is more important is, do they see a potential for companies to scale? Second is, if the companies have to scale, what are the dependencies? If it is dependent on the raw materials in India itself, or it's dependent on China or other geographies, how difficult are those to get, right? So if it is easier to get things within the country, the probability of scaling up is probably much faster, or from a challenge of bringing things from overseas. Now, many of you will say that China is much easier to bring, but there are restrictions, and there are a lot of other challenges from China. A lot of companies have expanded very well taking things from China, but we have to understand the logistical and the supply side constraints on, also the pricing point of it. Third is, if I'm looking at an entity, I always look at my money can help in a certain manner, but will the company be attractive to others? So what I mean by that? So today, let us say a VentureGarage or a very early stage company comes in to invest. They would see that will it be attractive for others to invest in future? Because I invested, I have a capacity of, let us say today, a $500,000 or a 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. But what is the next? Is there a next investor who can write a 2 million check? So is there a potential of the company to go to a size wherein the next investor is ready to take the bite? Correct? See, most of us face the challenge of this initial phase of pushing from point A where your product is already in the market, you've done a whole host of R&D, and you think you have built the best product. But first of all, the market has to accept it. Two is, even if you build the best product, you sell that product, right? And once you start selling, you'll know that despite all the things you have done in your lab or in your R&D facility, you have done 10,000 kilometers of tests. But once it's in the road driven by different type of people, the challenges will start coming in, right, sir? So then you really get to know that your product is the best or not, right? And then you need to do a lot of fine tuning. So it's not that the moment your product is done, you think it's an amazing product, you can scale it up like this. The third problem on this is that once you start, product is good, market is accepted, you want to scale. The challenge is that business needs two type of capital. One is the capital of for you to make your runway, which is all about equity, runway, your branding, your marketing, your R&D. Other is the capital which comes from debt providers, which is mostly your working capital. Ideally, you should not take equity money for working capital. Ideally. But we have no choice, sometimes we have to use it, but one has to plan it also well. So anywhere you start anything, please always keep a cushion of 24. I don't even say 12 months nowadays. Earlier I would definitely say that 12 months capital is there, go ahead. I now say 24, 18 to 24 because the fundraising cycles have changed over the years. Earlier I have closed deal in 3 months. Today equity deal in 6 months is also impossible, sort of, right? So the timelines have changed. So go to the market or plan your things at least 24 months ahead of time. If you know that in 24 months you are going to run out of cash. So please plan it accordingly. So I think in summary, what I wanted to convey is, I'm not going to dissuade or say anything which you think that I'm being negative. It's out of experience what's coming in. It's an amazing journey to be an entrepreneur, but it's a lonely journey. You have to fight your odds out. And it can only happen if you are, of course, you're passionate, you have conviction, everything is fine. But hard reality is you need capital. That's a very harsh and hard reality. I mean, I have an amazing entrepreneur here, Parshu. He has come back from US, did all the things. Product is amazing, but the scale up needs a lot of capital. So there are so many of you who know this. So please plan yourself accordingly because sometimes R&D takes longer. So you need to have that cushion. So for us, all these things are important together to look into before I jump into say, hey, this is the company. You know how many companies are rejected by the entrepreneurs? And let us say, if I have to invest in one, and if it is early stage, I'll give you an example of one of the funds we work very closely without naming them. And they are known to be one of the most successful early stage VCs, most successful. And in a year, they evaluate at least 2,500 companies. Do you think it's easy? I mean, you cannot just meet an entrepreneur and say you are out. You have to really understand the business model, spend time with them. So 2005, and you cannot, in a VC, it's a small fund. So you cannot have the luxury of 200 people or 20 people even working. You work with 4 or 5. So it's a tough one on the other side as well. For us to evaluate, look at each of these companies and then take a call, which one to take forward. And then comes the question of next is, after assuming out of 2,000 companies, you selected 10 to be tested that way to for next level. Now you realize that 5 out of 1, I'm pretty sure my friends would agree here, at least 50% is rejected on due diligence reasons. It could be PEP, which is politically exposed. It could be issues of violation of regulatory things. It could be capital challenges. It could be multiple other things. It could be place we are started is not right conducive. You may have to move the factory for whatever reasons. So end of it, out of that 10, probably 2 or 3 will get the investments. So that's the level of effort that goes in behind the scene. So be very well prepared. Take advice of people like XTRAWorks. They definitely guide you a lot. So you need somebody to be with you to handle all these things. One of the last things I'll say. Uh, the challenge we find is also on the accounting and finance side. I mean, entrepreneurs are amazing in terms of their thought process, in terms of the product. They understand the business, but come to numbers, most of them are not good at it. And there's nothing negative about it here. First, we have to understand each of us has the own strengths and weaknesses. You need to have someone who understands accounts from day one, because anywhere you go, anybody you talk about funding, they will talk of numbers, analysis of those numbers, and all. So you need to have somebody from day one who at least understands some numbers. I'm talking of a CFO. You don't need a CFO, but somebody who can play on the numbers, work with you on the numbers, do the projections for you and all, right? And last but not the least, you may be the best guy in terms of about the product you are building, about your knowledge about the product or the market. But you need somebody who is your sounding board, a mentor, a guide, whom you can exchange, think of the crazy ideas you have, who will bring you down to a level saying, hey, these 3 things you can do, but these 2 things are not at this stage, maybe in the next stage, right? So have somebody, the mentor who guides. So all these things are very important for us whenever we look at. Sorry, yes, long answer for short question.
Thank you. I think a very good answer. So thank you.
So I'm Aditya. I'm from VentureGarage. We are an early stage boutique investment banking firm based out of Gurgaon. As rightly, most of the point is already covered. But one thing, few things which I would like to add on, not differ. Thing is, I have been an entrepreneur and now become an investment banker. So I understand the pain points of what an entrepreneur has. They believe they've done the best of the product for the world, but is it market ready? Have they understood the customer well? Have they understood the market well? And finance, yes, definitely is a pain point for most of them. So what happens is you must have developed one of the great products. Is it market ready? India as an EV is the largest two-wheeler market in the world. We are one of the largest producers of two-wheelers in the world. But still, whatever is being run, only e-rickshaws are the success stories, as we call it today. Which also I think 80% has been localized. The second big market, which is the EV two-wheelers, yet to be localized. We are purely dependent on Chinese imports. And India is a mass market, yes. Have we been able to make a product for the mass market? Nearly 20 crore two-wheelers sell in India with Honda and Heroes of the world. So it's not an easy game. It's a long story. Big players will take you on. So you need to be ready to take on those challenges, fight it out, how your product is better. Ather is a nice example, but it took 8 years or 10 years to build that brand. So he said 24 months in the field you are, I think it will be 36 months. We are a sector agnostic firm. In FMCG companies, that's much faster, but not here. So you need to be battle ready longer. And one more aspect that most of the founders who are developers, they tend to ignore is sales. How well controlled are you of that field? Ultimately, we are investing money to get out money. So if that's sorted, I think half the battle is won. Then then rest of the small cases can be developed. Most of the people tend to overboard on technology. Ultimately, it's the product itself. It's not only technology. It can be technology led with a product. So if the amalgamation is right, I think there is no looking back. And as we analyze 2,500 companies in a year, bet only 15. So that's what we do. Small team. So saying no is the most difficult thing for us. But saying no at times is yes, you're not ready now. Half the founders have developed great products, but they've not understood the market, they've not understood the consumers. If you don't do those mapping right, I think India itself is a big market, and EV, we should think made in India for the world. If we are able to do that, then only we are the only country who can take on China head on. But we need to be ready for it.
Thank you. I some start from startup side. So hi, my name is Deepen Barai. My company name is Speedforce and Speedforce EV. We are into multi-brand two-wheeler services business. Since last 10 12 years from Gujarat, but I started with through Barai, and it's started for only Baroda. But social media took us, as we discussed, Sibsagar, as well as Gorakhpur and Hyderabad and everywhere. So we started this company for 10 years, and we right now we have 450 plus outlet across the India, and every state. Only one state we missing. There is a Tripura. So we have, every state we have. तो जैसे सर ने इन्वेस्टमेंट की साइड बताया ना, तो मैं स्टार्टअप की साइड बताऊं. सर आप राइटली बोले कि हमारे, आई थिंक माय जनरेशन, सो मेनी यंग्स हियर, माय जनरेशन, बिफोर माय जनरेशन, यानी हमारे पापा दादा ऐसा बोलते थे कि 1000 डेज देना है. अगर तुमको दुकान पे अगर छोटा सा अगर किराने का शॉप भी चालू करना है तो 1000 दिन तक तुमको गद्दी पे बैठना है. मैं वो फैमिली से आया, समझ कि जिन्होंने मेरे मेरे लाइफ में, मेरे फैमिली में किसी ने जॉब भी नहीं किया था, तो आए मैंने 12 साल नौकरी करने के बाद ये स्टार्टअप चालू किया. तो वहां से ये हमने सीख मिला था कि भाई 1000 दिन देना है. तो सेम स्टार्टअप में मैंने जब मैं ये आइडिया, हमारा जो सर्विसिंग का आइडिया था वो फ्रेंचाइजी कंसेप्ट हमने बनाया सर. तो मैं ऐसे ऐसे लोगों को मिला कि जिसको मैंने जाके इवन सर फ्री में वेट इक्विटी ऑफर करने गया था. मैं पब्लिकली बोल सकता हूँ क्योंकि नोज वेरी वेल, गौरव मारिया को, जो 20 साल से फ्रेंचाइजी बिजनेस में यानी इज अ लीडर, यानी इज अ फाउंडर ऑफ फ्रेंचाइजी बिजनेस इन इंडिया, बराबर मैं बोल सकता हूँ. उनको मैंने यहीं पे अहमदाबाद में नोवोटेल होटल में 24% इक्विटी मैंने सर उसको ऑफर किया कि सर आप मेरे साथ जुड़ो, ये मेरे को फ्रेंचाइजी कंसेप्ट आगे लेके जाना है. ही रिफ्यूज्ड मी. और वो उस दिन इतना, उन्होंने उतना ही बोला कि दीपेन तू थोड़ा काम करके आ मार्केट में. उसके 1.5 साल के बाद में उसको मिला, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी उनको जब मिला तब 12-13 आउटलेट थे मेरे कुछ, और वो भी बड़ोड़ा और सराउंडिंग एरिया में. तो उनको मिला तो मेरे को एक अलग लेवल का एक तो थ्रस्ट भी हुआ, और दूसरा अंदर से वो जो बोला खुन्नस. तो गुजराती आदमी हो तो वो किसी ने बोल दिया कि मैं तेरे साथ नहीं जुड़ रहा हूँ, ऐसा बंदे. तो वहां का जो पुशबैक था, आगे थोड़ी देर पहले जैसे मानदा सर ने बोला पुश और पुल की स्ट्रेटेजी, तो मैं वही पुश और पुल स्ट्रेटेजी का ही पार्ट हूँ. तो वहीं से हमने चालू किया. और जब मैं 2019 में मैं जब उनके एक्सपो में हमने स्टोर लगाया था, सर मैंने मैसेज किया उनको कि सर मैंने स्टोर लगाया. तो वो सुबह में आके मेरे को मिल रहे, उसमें कितने आउटलेट है, मैंने बोला 48 आउटलेट है. तो उसने बोला तूने आधा तो कर दिया. तो वहां से ये जर्नी शुरू की थी. और उसके बाद अभी और से 1 साल करना है, जैसे वो 2 साल करता हुआ 1 और साल करना है. तो व्हेन कोविड के, तो कोविड के पहले हमने ऑलमोस्ट 50 के आसपास किया था. सर कोविड वाज द अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर अस. बहुत सारे लोगों को ऐसा लगेगा मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ पब्लिकली फोरम में, लेकिन कोविड वाज अ अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर एवरी एंटरप्रेन्योर. जिसको भी टेक ड्रिवन नहीं था, जो भी डिजिटल प्रेजेंस नहीं था, उनके लिए सब एक अपॉर्चुनिटी था. तो मैंने वो अपॉर्चुनिटी का लिवरेज लिया कोविड के दौरान. और कोविड के बाद हमने वही साल में यानी 2021 में जो इमोशंस थे, क्योंकि बीइंग ए स्टार्टअप, बीइंग ए फाउंडर, आपको सामने का जो बंदे का जो इमोशंस है उसके साथ भी करना पड़ेगा. जब भी आप डीलरशिप रिक्रूट करने जाओ, ईवी का या कोई सर्विस वाले को अप्रोच करें या कहीं पे भी, तो हमने वो इमोशंस जो ड्रिवन था मार्केट को, जो लोग घर पे बैठ के थे, यानी घर पे फैमिली के पास पहुंच गए थे, उसको बोला आप यहीं पे कोई बिजनेस चालू करो. और वो साल बाय गॉड ग्रेस और बहुत सारे मेंटर्स जैसे वेणुगोपाल सर भी यहाँ पे हैं, उन लोगों ने हमको पुशअप किया और वो ड्रिवन हमको आज 450 तक लेके आया. तो बीइंग ए फाउंडर यू ऑलवेज हैव टू लुक 1000 डेज, बरोबर. बहुत सारे ऐसे दिन भी देखे हैं कि पूरे महीने में एक फ्रेंचाइजी नहीं बेचा है। बहुत सारे ऐसे दिन भी देखा है कि पूरे महीने में हमने 30-35 फ्रेंचाइजी बेचे, यानी हर दिन एक फ्रेंचाइजी बेचा है। तो वो एक अलग लेवल का, बीइंग ए फाउंडर आप अगर डटे रहे तो बराबर रास्ता तो है ही। अभी हम थोड़ी देर पहले ये बात कर रहे थे अनुपम से वगैरह से भी, बराबर रास्ता है ही, लंबा रास्ता है, लेकिन कितना स्पीड से चलना है वो आपको देखना है। तो अगर मैंने ये बड़ौदा से बिजनेस चालू करके मैं इंडिया पूरे लगा, और ये बहुत बड़ी इंडस्ट्री है, टू व्हीलर इंडस्ट्री, जैसे राइटली मैंने सर ने बोला कि वर्ल्ड के नंबर 1 हम टू व्हीलर्स में, अगेन ईवी है तो ईवी में भी हम नंबर 1 ही आएंगे। और अभी जस्ट मैचिंग करना है, और क्या है। करो। और एक में और है कि ये जो ईवीज है, तो ईवीज के लिए जो प्लेटफॉर्म है वो ऐसे ऐसे सपोर्ट हमारे पास नहीं थे, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। जैसे आज एक्स्ट्रा वर्क जिस तरह से कर रहा है ये नहीं थे। इवन मैं आपको बताऊं, हम जब इंक्यूबेशन हुए थे जीटीयू में, बराबर बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ पे अहमदाबाद में आई हैव देख रहे हैं, लेकिन हम जब जीटीयू में था तब कब वो छत गिरेगी वो भी पता नहीं था, समझ रहे हैं। तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में हम बड़े हुए। तो ये इवॉल्व है, इतना प्लेटफॉर्म बढ़िया है, तो यू हैव टू टेक लिवरेज आल्सो। थैंक यू।
So thank you. So keeping the same track, one question that comes up in many of the discussions is, while funding, let's say you get an amount of funding, the changes that go on in the product side or the market side, how should an entrepreneur react to that? I mean, from a funder perspective, let me give an example. For example, let's say there are changes in the chemistry side, the cell chemistry side, material changes, right? Or even regulation changes, right? Suddenly, let's say, for whatever reason, they change the speed limit of a vehicle or some regulation from 30 to 50 and so on, right? So how should an entrepreneur deal from a funding perspective? Because all these changes suddenly put a complete, I mean, they have to revamp their strategy.
Gaming industry.
Right? Sorry?
Gaming industry.
Yeah, sure. So, how should an entrepreneur look at it, and what is, I would say, your response or a funding agency's response to these changes that happen at a particular company or in an industry in general?
Very interesting question. The two initial phase, you get funding from two type of people. First, let's clarify that. One is what we call FF&F, right? Which is family, friends, and fools. So, why that one? People, one is friends who will never be able to say no to you. Your ask, they have to give. Whether they like you, not like you, doesn't matter. Second is, of course, family. Your most importantly, your father-in-law. Sorry, jokes apart. But I think, he also has no choice because he has selected his daughter or the other way around has selected. So, is to back. But the third person is people who trust you to the level that they will give money for whatever you do, because they believe in you as a person. So, this type of people will probably not do a due diligence at all. So they will back you for whatever it is. But let's take the next step. Next step is the people who are the early stage VCs. Whenever this type of things happen, so there are two parts to it. One is a small change, other is a regulatory change. Regulatory change doesn't happen overnight. Of course, gaming industry, you can question that. Those are a bit different, but most cases when you are doing a product like this, because see, gaming industry is much more on tech side and the other regulations, but this is a very product driven approach, right? In a product, if you are changing regulation fast, it's going to kill industry. So what they do is basically every investor would look through that what is the probability of certain things going obsolete. You have to build in your thesis of investment that assuming the speed part is said. So we know that all of a sudden the speed regulation will not change. They will give enough time to go from A to B. So whether the company will have enough, capital strength, capability to move things, either move from A to B, right? Whether it is some component which is subsidy driven to non-subsidy, whether it is about speed, whether it is about quality of the product and whatnot. So I think generally the experience has been that if it is a product industry, the regulation doesn't change overnight. There's enough in from the government. They will send a paper, they will discuss in the industrial session, then take it for a change. So you build in that cushion in that. But of course, rightly pointed out, there are certain industry when regulation comes in, cracks it straight away. I'll give you a very interesting example of financial services, what happened in China. P2P was growing literally like this, not even a literally like this, like a rocket going up the space. In one day in China, they bought a regulation, literally killed thousands of companies. But those are exceptions with the and so many investors lost money. There's so many of them. But those are exceptions. So I think gaming in India happened. This is one day I was presenting another conference, same discussion came up. Why what about gaming? RBI, I was telling about the RBI is very, very protective and it takes slow decisions, but it takes right decision. The immediate question was getting. I think in any business model, you are always building in a bit of shocks into the model. Because that's why what we investors do is, and we are veterans here. If you give me a model, I use my scissors and my scissors are very sharp. If you tell that you will go up 50%, I'll cut it to 30% or even 20%, even 15%. Test it. That will the institution survive at 50% sales? Because see, we as entrepreneurs, I'm an entrepreneur, I've built 2 ventures already. So we are always have a habit of being optimist. I'll grow by 35% year on year. Very clear. I'll go 50% year on year. ये तो ज़हन में है कि यार ग्रोइंग तो करना है, इसीलिए तो धंधा बना रहे हैं. But वो तो मेरा desire है. But I am depending on 20 other people to grow, right? I am depending on my product, I am dependent on the market, I am dependent on my financing me. I need to have a team which will back me on this. Because I'm not a Dasahuja. I'm not Durga. Mother Durga, that I can do 10 things with my hands. I have only 2 hands and I have only 24 hours. So, all these things have to be built in the plan. So, this is how we evaluate. When we evaluate, we have to cushion in. So we use our scissors, very sharp scissors. Any position comes, we first of all is 30% cut to karo hi karo. वो होगा ही होगा. If you go to 50%, 60%, depending on what industry, what type of projections you are putting in. And always, जो हम लोग टेस्ट करते हैं, is more on जो भी इनकम कर रहा हो उसको कट करो और एक्सपेंस उसको बढ़ाओ. So this is a very common way of testing any projection, and then see will the operation survive. So that's how we do it. So I think these are all built in when we look at things.
Just to add on to what you're saying, government when it changes a policy or changes any changes of such matter happen, more so with EV. How it started was they allowed 25 as a speed limit to encourage separate EVs. So that was the first step. For any person who understands or who's getting into the business, he needs to understand the rules and regulations of the laws of the land where he's operating in. So the CMVR rule of government, one, how well depth is the founder understanding of that ecosystem where he's working? How well is he educated in there? So this is bound to happen. This changes over a period of time. Once the ecosystem evolves, the spread of EV broadens, the rules of the games will change as per what is happening in the market or what it should have been. So how well you are used to that change, how well the company is suited to care on to that change, that needs to be understood by any investor as well as by the founder. How, if that's sorted, long run that company will. So that's so you need to understand where you are operating on, which market you are operating on, what are the everybody knew that carbonated drinks, cola, cigarettes is a serious industry. Go and tax it. So that's where it is. Now it has become 40. Again, suddenly the games have changed. So they must have done enough for people to not do that change. Yes. It's the most taxed industry, yes, the most used industry, tobacco.
तो from startup side, as sir mentioned, तो जैसे हम लोग being a founder हमको क्या लगता है कि हम पूरा जैसे मैं अगर मैं भी मेरी बात करूँ जब बड़ौदा से स्टार्ट किया तो हमने लिमिटेड किया था बड़ौदा में ये सर्विस देंगे, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अहमदाबाद जाएंगे, सूरत जाएंगे। लेकिन वो टाइम पे हमारे पास बहुत सारी अपॉर्चुनिटी भी आती है और फेल भी हो। मैं अगेन मैं बात करूँ, हमने जब हमारे पास कोई टीम नहीं थी, 5 लोगों की टीम थी और हमने शिव सागर में आउटलेट चालू किया। शिव सागर बहुत सारे लोगों, असम में एक जगह है जहाँ पे शिव सागर सिवाडोल करके एक एरिया है, वहाँ पे ONGC का एक बेल्ट है, वहाँ पे 3,500 फैमिलीज रहते हैं। तो वहाँ से एक ONGC का बंदा आके मेरे को बोल रहा है मेरे को आउटलेट चालू करना है। लेकिन मैंने बोला वहाँ पे सपोर्ट कैसे करेंगे, तो हमने चालू कर दिया, सपोर्ट भी किया, लेकिन उसके बाद उसका भगवान जाने ऐसा हो गया, समझ रहे। तो बीइंग ए फाउंडर जब हम प्रोजेक्शन लेके जाते, मैंने भी, मैं आपको बताऊं, मेरे करीबन मोर देन 100+ VC को मैं मिला हुआ हूँ फॉर स्पीड फोर्स, लेकिन नो वन इज रेडी टू इन्वेस्ट, बरोबर। और आज भी इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं लिया है। एक बार हमने छोटा सा एक इन्वेस्टमेंट लिया कहीं पे, लाइक माइंड, और इन्वेस्टमेंट भी लेना है तो कहाँ है पे लाइक माइंडेड अगर VC है तो वहीं से इन्वेस्टमेंट लो, तो ही वो आपकी गेम बन सकती है, अदरवाइज नहीं बन सकती। क्योंकि सिर्फ पैसा तो बैंक से भी मिल सकता है, अगर आपका अच्छा टर्नओवर है, अच्छा बुक्स है, तो पैसा बैंक से मिलता है। हमने बैंक का सहारा लेकर पूरा ये बिजनेस खड़ा किया है। आज मेरे पास रिकरिंग मॉडल है, तो मैं आज किसी भी VC के साथ बैठ के, क्योंकि सारे जगह पे एक लेवल का रिकरिंग मॉडल और ये सारा कुछ चाहिए। बीइंग अगेन EV, जब हम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोडक्ट, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम प्रोडक्ट बनाएंगे तो बहुत सारे हमने देखे भी है, इवन इंडिया में भी बहुत सारे EVs बना रहे हैं, बरोबर। आज 15 साल से मैं देख रहा हूँ जिंदाल मोबिलिटी जो है, उनका जो प्रोडक्ट है वो 12 साल से तो मैं देख रहा हूँ वो ऋषि बना रहा है, समझ, आज तक मार्केट में नहीं आया, बराबर। तो वो इस तरह का जो प्रोडक्ट हम बना रहे हैं या जो डेवलप कर रहे हैं, तो वहाँ पे हम बीइंग ए फाउंडर खुद को भी देखना है कि हम किस तरह से कहाँ पे। और जैसे अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मेरा परशुराम से बात हुआ कि एरिया वाइज, अब रीजनल वाइज डेवलप करें। जैसे हमने किया कि भाई पहले गुजरात करा करते, फिर महाराष्ट्र जाते, फिर चलो हम गए थे। लेकिन सर मैं आपको बताऊं, वर्स्ट ऑफ वर्स्ट एरिया था। लोग, बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ पे होंगे, बिहार जाना चाहिए आज से 10 साल पहले, नहीं जाना चाहिए। मैं बिहार आज से 8 साल पहले गया था, और बिहार और यूपी ने मेरे को हाईली सक्सेस दिया है। मैं आपको बताऊं, EV सेल्स में बहुत सारे यहाँ पे जो सीनियर्स है वो मेरे से एग्री करेंगे, EV सेल्स में हाईएस्ट नंबर्स बिहार और यूपी से है। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे, तो बता रहा था कि यूपी इज द इटसेल्फ अ कंट्री, बरोबर, बिहार है। अभी मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले बोला 450 आउटलेट बनाए हैं, लेकिन में हमने सिर्फ बिहार में 2 साल में 225 आउटलेट बनाए, सिर्फ 2 साल में, यानी कोविड से 21 से 24 के बीच में, यानी 2 साल में, फाइनेंशियल ईयर में। तो ये कुछ एरियाज ऐसे होते जो अगर आपने रिसर्च किया, प्रॉपर रिसर्च किया और ग्राउंड वर्क किया, बराबर। मैंने ग्राउंड वर्क किया, इसलिए मैं बोल सकता हूँ यहाँ पे। आज बिहार में मैं पटना एयरपोर्ट पे उतरूंगा तो मेरे को कोई गूगल मैप की भी जरूरत नहीं, पूरा बिहार घूमने के लिए मैं अकेला सेल्फ ड्राइव करके जा सकता हूँ। तो ये जो बीइंग ए फाउंडर या बीइंग ए टीम, आपको मेंबर और सीनियर मेंबर को ये करना चाहिए, कोई भी बिजनेस में। मैंने वैसे ना, मैंने अपने लिए किया है तो आप अपने लिए भी कर सकते हैं, तो ये बहुत ही जरूरी है। और उसके बाद आप VC के पास जाके बैठ सकते हो और उसको पूरा डेटा दे। मैंने जब VC कर, बिहार सिर्फ 650 वहाँ पे टोटल कस्बे है, उसमें से 334 कस्बे ऐसे है, और उसमें से 228 कस्बे ऐसे जहाँ पे स्पीड फोर्स का आउटलेट बन सकता है। तो यहाँ तक का वर्क मैंने उनको कर दिया, और वो एरिया में कौन सा डीलर है, किसका है, तो एवरीथिंग यू हैव टू फिगर आउट बीइंग ए फाउंडर। और उसके बाद हम VC के पास जब बैठते हैं तो वहाँ पे एक अलग लेवल का कॉन्फिडेंस आता है। यू राइटली से कि भाई जो भी प्रोजेक्शन होता है, तो बीइंग ए फाउंडर हमको ऐसा ही लगता है मैं अभी 1000 आउटलेट बना लूंगा, 5000 आउटलेट बना लूंगा। पर मैंने जब फंड रेज किया था, जो हमारा वर्कआउट नहीं हुआ है 2 साल पहले, बरोबर, विवेक ओबेरॉय वाज द स्ट्रेटेजिक इन्वेस्टर ऑफ माय कंपनी, और उसके साथ बैठ के हमने पूरा स्ट्रेटेजी डिजाइन किया। तो वो बोला 1 साल में 500 आउटलेट बन जाएंगे, मैंने नहीं बनेंगे। तो विवेक ओबेरॉय नहीं, नरेंद्र मोदी जी का भी फोटो लगाऊंगा तो भी नहीं बनेंगे, क्योंकि ये बिजनेस ऐसा है कि ग्राउंड में जाके किसी को सिखाना है। और ये बिजनेस ऐसा है, बीइंग ए सर्विस, EV हम बना सकते हैं, कितनी भी टेक्नोलॉजी लाए, रोबोटिक्स लाए, कुछ भी है, लेकिन जब सर्विस करने के लिए वो EV जाएगा तो उसको हाथ से वो 10 नंबर का टी पाना लेना ही पड़ेगा, जो मैकेनिक होगा उसको। तो वो बिजनेस मैं समझा रहा था। तो ये बीइंग ए फाउंडर हमको लगता है कि ये कर सकते हैं, लेकिन अगेन VC के साथ बैठते और पूरा फिगर आउट करके, और आपके पास प्रॉपर डेटा है और सब कुछ है, तो आप उसके साथ फाइट कर सकते हैं।
Thank you all. Final comments. Oh, okay.
I have
So-
a question, if it is allowed. But so my question is to Unitus and Aditya. You mentioned when you mentioned, I'm Rajan by the way. I'm also an angel investor. And you mentioned when you started that initially it used to take 3 months probably to fund a startup, to decide all the process like due diligence, vetting, everything, whatever parameters you suggested. Now it takes 6 months. So it is ironic. It should now take less. In advent of AI, by default, being an angel investor, my question is on behalf of startups. If the ecosystem has to grow fast, because I was also an entrepreneur, sometimes a good idea, well-studied market, everything in place fails because they are not oiled or funded in time. We have cases, you would know better than me. So if the time is extending, means there is a problem in the ecosystem. Now the ecosystem is maturing, the time should reduce.
Sir, first of all, a bit of clarification that I said I have done deals in 3 months. That means not all deals are 3 months. There's an exception to the rule. General norm, and sir will also bear with me, that the general norm is between around 6 months. 5 से 6 मंथ डील में लगता है. आज क्यों चेंज हुआ है वो भी बताता हूँ. आप देखिए, एक छोटा सा नंबर आपको बताता हूँ. आई मीन आई एम बेस्ड आउट ऑफ बैंगलोर. तो HSR इज द हब ऑफ बैंगलोर का स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम. Any wild guess how many companies are registered in HSR? It's only a 2 kilometer radius area. Only a 2 kilometer radius area. Any wild guess कितनी companies registered होगी startup के हिसाब से?
More than 2 lakhs.
नहीं सर, so big number. So सर मैं बोल रहा हूँ 2 किलोमीटर भी रेडियस नहीं है उस जगह का. 20,000 startups हैं. All are running. That's what I'm saying. These are all running companies. Now why I'm saying this? And coming back to the point of his point also, which I said earlier, is एक इन्वेस्टर को कितना देखना पड़ता है, right? How many companies? So the number of startups have increased tremendously vis-a-vis the funds. Point number one. तो आज आप देखिए फंड्स बड़े हैं. There is no, आपके यहाँ पे धुलकिया वेंचर्स हैं, they have invested quite a lot. Multiple of them. But compared to the requirement, देखिए one day the fund called IPV, you all know, right? हर वीक में वो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, हर वीक में. But those are different type. Like they do a pitch and then you and me and then we invest 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs or whatever. But फिर भी कितना किए होंगे? 150, 200. You know, every week I meet most of the entrepreneurs I meet are quite matured entrepreneurs. Every week on an average I meet 8 entrepreneurs. But मैं बताता हूँ उसमें से 2 ही फंड करने लायक होते हैं. These are mature companies. I'm not saying I'm mature here. मैं 2 के ऊपर मैं कर ही नहीं सकता. वो भी मैंने बहुत मुश्किल से. So and these are all mature, like already 4-5 years into the business, right? So the number of companies are so much. Point number one. Point number two is that the things earlier was different because आप कोविड के बाद अगर देखेंगे, all of a sudden there's a huge rush of investors. दो साल invest नहीं किए थे. They're hungry. So कुछ किसी को भी growth अच्छा दिखा, they jump into it and grab it. But how things change. आप सोचिए pre-COVID, the amount of investment which happened in fintech, आज दिखता है आपको? नहीं है. उस समय entity tech तो almost आधा ही मैंने बंद ही हो गया था. You know, तो fintech में एक समय पागलपन था. चाइना का सक्सेस हम सबको दौड़ा दिया. Then came COVID, and then we slowed down on this. आज कितने early stage investment होते हैं? So number of investors reduced. It's not the interest in India. India is a big market as I said. Still countries, no market is as big. हमारे यहाँ पे actually global अगर आप देखेंगे, the most number of new funds are being set up in only in India, right? वो भी है, but compared to the demand, the supply is very limited. That's why the dividends has increased. And 2-3 things. What has happened is देखिए, at some point some of the ones became poster boys and grew like very fast and fell also very fast. Whether it is, you know, most of the Go Mechanic को आप देख लीजिए, क्या potential था, आप देख लीजिए रेशा मंडी, such amazing entrepreneurs. But I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm saying that for whatever reasons, many of them failed. Tons of money went into and failed. And then now investors are questioning that how we can put people to really come in as operating partners, be with them as mentors. पहले क्या इन्वेस्टमेंट दे दिया, लोगों ने मांगा, एक साथ 4 इन्वेस्टर आ गए, हम बोर्ड सीट नहीं देंगे. What was the game there? No, board seats are not allowed. If you only have 20%, then you get a board seat. So entrepreneurs actually demanded so much, right? Now the things are changing. Board seat भी दे देंगे, आप आओ 3 दिन time भी दे देंगे, because the number of investors are less. So I think the time increases because of what are the frauds happen in the system. People ran away with the money, sir. Lot of people ran away with the money. And these are like come with very high pedigree also. It's not like a traditional entrepreneur अपने से धंधा कर रहे हैं. We take and everything they run away with the money. तो वो ना कंसर्न बहुत हो गया सर, बहुत कंसर्न हो गया. आज आपको मालूम है हम 3rd लेवल 4th लेवल पे जाके देखते हैं पे पैकिंग. पहले देखते भी नहीं थे कि अच्छा मम्मी पापा ठीक ठाक है, वहीं तक खत्म कर दिए. अंकल के वो कोई पॉलिटिकल कनेक्शन तो इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है बिजनेस पे, राइट? हम देखते हैं कि कहीं पे 20 साल पहले भी अगर कहीं डिफॉल्ट हुआ तो उसका रीजन पूछते हैं क्यों हुआ. तो एवरीथिंग इज नाउ. सर एक छोटा एग्जांपल देता हूं. एक बड़ा आई वाज रनिंग द टील एज द इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर. बंदा सर स्पीक एंड ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड बैंकर है. उसके ऊपर कोई 100 करोड़ डाल रहा था सर. बिजनेस कुछ नहीं था, आइडिया था. मेरे को क्या हो गया, हिम्मत करके ले लिया मैंडेट. मैं जनरली इतना डिसीजन लेता नहीं. डील बन गया, 3 टर्म शीट मिली, साइन कर लिए, 100 करोड़ का डील कर रहे थे. ऑन पेपर कुछ नहीं था बिजनेस. सब कुछ हो गया उस केस में. एक चीज निकल गया, इन्वेस्टर से भी नहीं, इन्वेस्टर के एलपी से. इन्वेस्टर एलपी फिगर आउट, इन्वेस्टर को डिटेल्स में दिखा ली. एलपी हैव फिगर्ड आउट कि दिस गाय हैज अ केस इन कोर्ट एंड अ पॉश केस. And think of it, he was the MD of that company where he used to work, and he's 3 level down, a branch manager, had an altercation with an employee, and that lady, for whatever reasons, I'm not going into the case, put a case against the branch manager of some harassment, and copied Mane as a party, as the MD also, the region manager and the MD, and that case is not yet sorted. And what the LP says is this is a reputation-less posh case. They didn't invest. Everything done, they didn't invest. So, sir, this I'm saying the reputation risk for any investor is very, very high today. So that's why the due diligence has increased tremendously, sir.
Hygiene check.
Maximum वही हो रहा है, sir.
Not only hygiene check, angel investors have also become very diligent in questioning any place that they're investing in. So because they point their fingers earlier, as he rightly said, after COVID, there was an influx. What happened after that? People have pointed fingers. So they've been wiser now, and we have been all more diligent in pitching any deal to any investor. So I think that's.
Can AI help reduce the time? Is it possible?
Sir, definitely things have become better with AI. ठीक है सर, एक चीज क्लियर है, आप डिटेल्स करना है उसमें ना बहुत कुछ आप डेटा आपको होना चाहिए पब्लिक को. आपको मालूम है ऐसे ऐसे केसेस में जहाँ पे there was nothing there, but कहीं पे एक डाउट हुआ बात करके, इन्वेस्टर का डाउट, राइट? एंड देन ही कॉल्स अप से यार कॉन्फिडेंशियल है, पता कर. Then I had to use my 10 sources to reach वहाँ पे क्या हुआ था, कुछ खबर मिला. You won't believe there was a case we found out of. कहीं भी आई कैन रिलेशनशिप है, एकदम रिलेशनशिप.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we've run out of time. So just to summarize, I think so thank you, Abhijit and Aditya ji and Deepen ji. So thank you. So just to summarize, I think it is very clear what is expected from the funding agency and what is also expected from the startups. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more discussions. I know this is, we just had a few minutes, but we can continue these discussions over lunch. Right?
So last point, sir, we have taken, this is our choice in government. So please be proud of that. We are here to change, we are here to make things work. And we have that strength, resilience, and the internal willpower to make it work. And we are in a very good economy, we are growing, and we are visionary. So keep that motto we'll be able to do. But yes, health is not very. Thanks.